Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the latest podcast. My guest this week is C.L. Brown, who covers the North Carolina Tar Heels for the Raleigh News Observer. CL, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon. Appreciate you having me.
Thank you. I'm watching tape of North Carolina, what they did against Notre Dame. And the one that really stands out to me is Drake May. Man, the guy is unbelievable. Their offense is explosive. How are their preparations going for this game?
Well, I think Drake kind of surprised everybody with the way he's handled things. I mean, he's a redshirt freshman, so yes, he was around last year, and he wasn't totally new to the system and everything. And they even got to play against Wofford last year. Sam Howell was injured, so they played both quarterbacks, Jacoby Criswell and Drake May. And so he's just come in and they really like his decision-making process. He's been sharp with that. He's definitely got the pedigree. His dad played quarterback at North Carolina back in the 80s, Mark May. And his brother, some people,
you know his brother.
Yeah. Luke. And now his other brother is a walk-on the basketball team. He's kind of got all those things going for him, and it really shapes his competitiveness and, just what he brings to the field. So I think probably more than anything else, I think I've been surprised by just how well he's been able to spread the ball around too. I mean, a lot of times with a young quarterback, they kind of get one guy as their guy, and Josh Downs set program records for receptions and yards last year. So you figured he's going to be kind of have a one-track mind. But Downs actually got hurt in that first game. So he's had to spread the ball around because he didn't have the one go-to guy. So now Downs is back, and the offense is really clicking in the passing game. The running game is still kind of behind schedule.
Yeah, the thing I look at Carolina and Canes, I have my co-host Canes Insider. Canes Insider, you want a question you want to ask CL Brown? Insider, are you there? All right, sorry about that.
No.
I look at the defense. The defense to me for Carolina has always been suspect. How are they trying to get that fixed going into the Miami game?
Yeah, they had a players-only meeting, defensive players-only meeting after the Notre Dame loss. And so they came out a lot better against Virginia Tech. Now, on one hand, Virginia Tech is kind of suspect offensively. They don't have everything rolling on all cylinders. But neither did Notre Dame going into that game. Notre Dame was averaging 300 yards a game before Carolina, and they put up 576 yards on Carolina's defense. So I think the main thing was communication and trust among that unit. A lot of times you'd have one or two guys who were just out of place, kind of trying to make their plays on their own instead of trusting the system and where they were supposed to be. So they ironed that out against Virginia Tech. They only allowed 2 explosive plays, which has been a problem. Like a lot of teams popped a lot of big plays, on that defense before. So I think coming into Miami, they're really just trying to build off of what they did against Virginia Tech and try and show some consistency, because it's one thing to do it once against a suspect offense. It's another thing to go on the road to do it again. So I think this is another big test for that unit.
Canes Insider, you have a question for CL Brown?
Yeah, I was wondering, you mentioned UNC's defense has had their ups and downs, but how have Storm Duck and Tony Grimes came along this season?
I think that's part of the problem. They've been uneven. I mean, Storm Duck is really just returning to play because he was injured. Primarily the last 2 seasons, he hadn't played a whole lot. And so it's taken him a while trying to get back to his form. Grimes, I feel like, has been more steady among their group, but occasionally he's lost focus. I remember against Georgia State, he gave up a big touchdown catch where he just kind of took his eyes off of, got caught sneaking and looking in the backfield, and his guy gets behind him. So they definitely need more consistent play from their cornerbacks. And I feel like, Gene Chizik has been pleased with how they've played the last couple of weeks. So we'll see. They've been talking about the speed and the playmaking ability that Miami has at their skill positions. So we'll see if they can continue that into Saturday's game.
Yeah, we know North Carolina's beaten Miami the last 3 years. Many down here think we got Mario Cristobal primarily to beat Mac Brown. I mean, what is the difference now, knowing that people gone on Mac? I know they're 4-1, but look, when I look at their schedule, it gets tougher after Miami. I don't know how to ask this. What do you do to prepare, having to go on the road, like you said, to play in a tough environment like Miami?
Well, they coming into this year was a big point of emphasis because they had lost, I think it was their last 7 games outside of Kenan Stadium, and that included, their bowl losses. And they were losing like in late game situations, like they would play well and then just kind of fall apart. So I think because they put so much of an emphasis on that, they had a lot better effort against, they were on the road at App State and Georgia State this year. So 2 Sun Belt opponents, but we've seen what the Sun Belt can do, in non-conference play. So I don't discount those wins as being non-Power 5 wins because they did show up to play. And in both games, they got leads. They were up 41-21 against App State, and then App State makes this furious comeback. And then they were up 21-3 on Georgia State and let Georgia State take a lead. They scored 25 straight points before Carolina, got stable again and went ahead and won that game. But I think those games specifically just kind of have taught them that they can't let up and they can't be watching the scoreboard and think that, okay, we got this lead and we're in a good position and we can ease up. So I think that has helped kind of teach them a lesson, but it is going to be kind of a step up in level on Saturday. So we'll see if they're prepared.
The thing with our Carolina, we've lost 2 straight, came off a bye. We were picked to win the Coastals and Carolina third to start the year.
I was one of those media people that picked Miami to win the Coastals.
And look at Corey, and a former Cane will be playing in this game, and Corey Gaynor. Has Corey Gaynor given the offense anything different to what to expect from the Miami defense on Saturday, knowing that he played there for 4 years?
Well, some of the defensive guys at Carolina have talked about Corey Gaynor giving them tips about Miami's offensive line and things that might help tip them off about, plays and where the ball is going and that kind of thing. It's kind of funny. I was joking with somebody else that asking what did the South Florida press do to Corey Gaynor, because he doesn't talk to us. He had one introductory press conference when he first got here after transferring, and since the season has started, he's elected not to speak with the press, and he's just focused on football. But he's been a big addition. A lot of the offensive linemen specifically talk about his leadership, and he was kind of locked up in a position battle too with Brian Anderson, who was injured, a lot last year, but he was kind of the incumbent starter, and Corey Gaynor beat him out and won that position, and has brought a lot of leadership and kind of has that veteran presence on the offensive side of the ball for Carolina.
Canes Insider, you want to ask a question? You have a question you want to ask also?
Yeah, I was wondering how Zach Rice, Travis Shaw, and Sebastian Cheeks are coming along.
Well, Sebastian Cheeks is out for the year with I think it's a lower body injury. We don't get the specifics.
I went to school with him for a few years. So.
Oh, okay, yeah. So they're actually very thin at linebacker right now.
Yeah.
Outside of the starters, the experience level basically goes to 0. If Ra Dilworth is a sophomore linebacker who missed last week's game against Virginia Tech in there, he's basically a game time decision on Saturday. So Travis Shaw has kind of been coming along slowly, taking baby steps. I think the issue with Travis getting more time is I think he's still a kid, man. He's still kind of immature about what it takes to win at this level and the preparation he has to have and just the time he needs to put into it. So he's probably not where he should be, but I think a lot of that is on him. And you said Zach, the offensive tackle. Yeah, it's just hard for a freshman to really break in on the offensive line and have an impact early. And they are pleased with his progress and everything, but it's just a tough position to kind of pick up everything and to really be in there and get in a rotation. And plus, when they hired a new offensive line coach, Jack McNeil, he likes only playing with, 6, maybe 7 guys, and just having guys who can play multiple positions. So they've been very tight on the rotation on the offensive line.
Yeah. By the way, we're running short on time here. I want to get some quick things here. Quick thoughts. Number one, I noticed this is the 68th different coach that Mario Cristobal will be facing in this game in MAC. I mean, considering it's only his 127th game of his career. Tyler Van Dyke, 104th nationally, 4 TD passes, was tied for 27th last year with 25 in just 9 games. We noticed down here, and Insider could tell you this, the drop-off by Van Dyke has been pretty noticeable this year. I mean, what he did last year in the second half of that Carolina game, do you expect to see the same Van Dyke this Saturday?
It was like he came up against Carolina last year. I think they certainly are. They know what he's capable of, even though he hadn't necessarily shown all of that this season. But they definitely are going into that game respecting what he can do.
Considering that he get that opposing quarterbacks are allowing 67% of their passes to be completed against that Carolina defense.
Yeah, and he's an experienced guy based off last year. I don't think anybody really expected him to do what he did last year. From once they found out De'Aaron King wasn't going to be playing against him, I think maybe they thought, who's this Tyler Van Dyke guy? Certainly he can't be as good as King was, and he obviously showed him what he could do. So, they definitely have a lot of respect for Van Dyke heading into Saturday.
Yeah. By the way, let's TL, I'm going to get you on this. Give me your keys to the game Saturday.
Keys to the game for Carolina. I think obviously Drake May has to do what he's done, and he's got to stay on his feet, man. He's taking like some big shots. He got the wind knocked out of him, but nobody knew that when he was down on the ground Saturday against Virginia Tech, and they were up 31-10, and he's trying to jump from the 7-yard line into the end zone. Like it was an impossible play to try and make, and an unnecessary play. So they're trying to get him to get down when he runs, to slide, to get out of bounds, just to not take unnecessary hits, because he's essentially the franchise right now. So he has to do what he does. And defensively, I put it on the defensive line because they have the depth there. They have talent there. They've got to kind of set a tone and establish, some pressure on Van Dyke, help clog the lanes on the running game. They're trying to get better against the run. They have to play well. And then I think just kind of the intangibles that come with playing on the road, Carolina has to prepare for those X factors, not that you can prepare for it, but just mentally be ready to fight through some adversity, whether it's, turnovers early or just getting down in the score and keep fighting through. So I would focus on that.
Okay. Keys to the game, Canes Insider, for us to win?
I would say open up the passing game, because obviously Josh Gaddis's offense the first few weeks has been centered around dump off passes, but I would say opening up the passing game, running the ball, of course, because you need to get Van Dyke settled into the game. I think opening up the run game would be essential for that. And for defense, I just say keep everything in front of you.
Yeah. Score predictions before we go. CL, you have a score prediction for Saturday?
Well, I picked Carolina in our paper, so I didn't have to pick the score, though, but I'd probably say like 34-28.
Okay, 34-28 Carolina. Insider.
Assuming it's the same TVD we've seen the first few weeks, because obviously that's a wild card to the game, but without the TVD we saw last year, I'd give UNC 38, Miami 24.
I made my guarantee early in the week on Twitter. I'm not backing off now. I think Miami will win this ball game. They will find a way. I know Carolina's been in their heads the last 3 years. I'm going to go Miami 35, North Carolina 24. That's my prediction. CL, I want to thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Are you making the trip to South Florida Saturday?
Yes, heading out tomorrow afternoon. Looking forward to it.
Safe trip down to South Florida. Enjoy the game Saturday. We'll talk again soon.
All right. You guys have a good one.
Take care. Hey, thank you, man. Thank you very much, CL.
Hey, no problem. I apologize for being late. I was doing a phone interview.
Hold on. Let me